Hi, welcome back to another Drive and Talk with me, Ren. And today I just want to talk about entrepreneurship. That's right, because I have a regular day job, but I used to be a full-time entrepreneur. I had my own digital marketing company, had my own CrossFit gym. I did many things, and today I work at a company. I'm a senior recruiter at an international company. So I just work a regular 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. But I also am an entrepreneur. I still am. I run several businesses, but I'm trying to cut them down. The reason why I'm doing that is so I can put more focus into one particular thing. I always had this idea that if I ran multiple businesses in different types, shapes, and then I would have more chance of one of them being successful. I still believe in that, but this year I try to focus on one thing, and it's advice by Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you guys know this one. This guy, he's an entrepreneur, very successful. He wrote several books, $100 million leads, $100 million offers, right? Yeah. So he basically says, focus on one business and just go all in on that. So I'm doing that. My business is called 24 AMRAP. If you're interested, there's a link in the description below. Now, as I told you guys, I used to own a CrossFit gym, and now I run this team event, this CrossFit team event. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but basically it's an online event that happens in the summer in June and in the winter in December, and teams from all over the world can register for that tournament, that competition, and they don't have to leave or travel their own box. It's what CrossFitters call a gym. They can just do it there, and we use video judging to make sure that it's fair, and it's a 24-hour race to the finish. So for 24 hours back to back, you and your team will stay in your box and compete against teams from all over the world in different countries, different time zones, and I've been doing that for almost 10 years now, and it's pretty successful, but I want to grow it. Right now I have around an average of 40 teams per event, so one in the summer, one in the winter time. But this in theory is an infinitely scalable event, so it's all online. So an average of 40 teams, could be 400 teams, doesn't matter. To me it doesn't matter, because everything's done online. It's done with specific software and systems. So that's what I run right now, and that's what I'm focusing on. I used to produce a physical counting system that CrossFitters use to count rounds and reps called Bolt Beats, but I stopped that like a month ago because it was just too much work, and the return of investment, it was not enough for me to keep on doing that. So I stopped doing that. So that was a business that I run very successfully, by the way, but the return of investment is just not there. And I ran it for 3 years, and the last year was more out of sentiment and more about that I like doing it. But at a certain point you have to just look at the numbers and be a real entrepreneur, and a real entrepreneurship is about profit, right? It's not about revenue. It's about profit and what it actually means in terms of return of investment. And I just spent too much time for the revenue or the profit that it brought, so I stopped that. I also work as a CrossFit coach, as a freelance CrossFit coach. I do that around 5 to 6 hours a week, but with travel, you know, it takes me around 7 hours, 8 hours a week, and which is very good, very nice. I've been a CrossFit coach, professional CrossFit coach for many years. I told you I own my own CrossFit affiliate. I've been a CrossFit coach for about 15 years. I'm very experienced in that field. But here also I found out that, you know, it's not what I want to focus on, because in that business it's also, you know, time for money, just like my regular day job, my office job. And I want to do something that's really online and more scalable, like 24 AMRAP. I'm just gonna get some gas right here. So I'm just gonna put recording on pause and we'll continue later on. So yes, I'm back. Put gas in the car and onwards we go. So yeah, so that's what I'm focusing on right now. Now, which brings me to the reason why I'm doing this video, just because I just want to share with you, you know, what I do to promote and sell tickets or work that business, right? Because in essence, it's pretty simple. It's an event. It's twice a year. So I sell tickets to teams. Teams can register online and they can compete in the event. It's that simple, right? It's CrossFit. So I just went through a very big thing with the CrossFit lawyers, or a law firm that represents CrossFit, because the CrossFit name, it's an actual brand name like Coca-Cola, is protected. So I used a lot of CrossFit words and tags in my Instagram account and my 24 AMRAP Facebook account, which they found. And basically I got an email from one of the lawyers telling me to cease the use of that word, of that protected word, CrossFit, to stop using that and remove all hashtags and words from the social media pages, from the website and everything. So that was a lot of work. I spent 2 weeks doing that, like literally checking everything. It's because, for example, on Instagram, there's no real way to bulk edit all of your Instagram posts. And I don't want to just delete everything, because, you know, some of them are posts that are part of, you know, the brand, the 24 AMRAP brand. So I did that. So that is one of the things, you know, for example, as an entrepreneur, you can encounter, right? But for selling the tickets, what I usually do is around 2 months, 3 to 2 months before one of the events. So, you know, it's in June and December. So about 3 months before that, I start working the marketing machine, right? So I start posting more on the social media accounts. I have an early bird sale around 3 months before the actual event, which you can get discounts. And what I'm doing right now is a lot of cold outreach and paid advertising. So let's just start with paid advertising, because that's the simplest to explain. You can pay on Instagram and Facebook to have a commercial that you create, whether that's text or of course, you know, some kind of a picture, a photo, because, you know, social media, it's Instagram, or a video, which I use right now, and promote that so a lot of people can see it. So to give you an example of what the cost is for that, I just had a 18-second video shown to woo, excuse me, to 20,000 people, and that cost me 75 euros. So an ad, a video ad, shown to 20,000 people is 75 euros, which is, not too bad, right? Now, what are the people I'm showing it to? These are the people that these are the target groups that I chose, and there are people in specific countries where I know there are always a lot of teams signing up from those countries, like Germany and Austria and the UK, etc. And you can also narrow down the scope of the people in those countries by their interests. And for me, of course, it's CrossFit, the CrossFit Games, anything that is related to our sport. If you don't know CrossFit, by the way, it's a very specific sport. It's a high intensity sport that is rooted in military training. So for example, if I go to a CrossFit competition, and to give you some idea of who I am, I won my last CrossFit competition. And you get there and then they tell you what you have to do. Usually it's 3 workouts, and these workouts are completely unknown to you until the briefing, which is like 10 minutes before the workout. So it's what we call GPP, General Physical Preparedness. So you have to be ready for anything, which makes sense if you understand that it's the roots are in military training or military program. You have to be ready for anything. Could be lifting heavy objects, could be endurance, like a lot of endurance work, could be swimming, could be cycling, could be climbing a rope, could be anything. So that is CrossFit. That's what CrossFit is about. So the same for my event for 24 hours. People will not know what they have to do for the 24 hours. Every hour we publish, or I publish 3 movements they can use in that specific hour, and that goes on for 24 hours. So basically 24 hours, every hour they get 3 new movements they can choose from, they can use to complete as many reps as possible. That's what AMRAP means. AMRAP stands for as many rounds or as many reps as possible. Now this is all CrossFit talk. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. You're probably not interested. If you're interested, I can tell you how I do cold outreach. Now the thing with paid advertising is, unless you put some kind of a discount code on it, it's very hard to track, right? So I can have 20,000 people see the ad, maybe 5 teams sign up because they saw the ad. So, but that's very difficult to track. The only way to do that is to use it. For example, a very simple way to do that, to track that, is to add a discount code. So I can put a new ad in, which I'm going to do, by the way. So it might be interesting to see what that brings statistically, right? So I'm going to put in a new ad, put up a new ad later this week, where I will also provide a discount code. And with that discount code, they can get 10 euros off the team ticket, right? So once they use that discount code, which is unique for that ad, I can literally track in a very simple way how many people saw that ad and used that discount code. The problem is that it's not waterproof, right? Because I can see that ad, use the code, and then also send the code to my friend who trains at another box, and he also uses the code to register 2 teams, right? So, and then those 2 teams that were registered by the other guy, they didn't see the ad. So the data can be a little bit diluted, right? But in essence, it's a very simple and effective way to track the performance of that ad, like real tracking. I'm not talking about impressions or views, because to me, that's just, and to all entrepreneurs, that's just, not useless information, but basically what you want as an entrepreneur, if you're not making 50,000 of of gross profit a month is you just want to get sales. You just have to sell. It's something that I had to learn the hard way, and it took me 2 decades basically. Is that I was always doing all these things, and all these things that did not bring in sales. I learned the hard way, and I'm telling you, if maybe you're an entrepreneur or maybe you want to start your own business, if you're not making like 50K gross profit a month, just focus on sales. It's just sales, just getting more sales. And one of the ways to do that is, for example, paid advertising. And paid advertising is, in essence, again, also very simple, not easy, but pretty simple. Let's say if I take the example of 75 euros, right? 20,000 people see my ad and I pay 75 euros, okay? Let's say 5 teams register because of that ad that cost me 75 euros. That's never gonna happen, I think, but let's say 5 teams, right? That basically means I spent 15 euros for every sign up, right? Because I spent 75 euros, 5 teams, 75 divided by 5 is 15. So my ad spend, or cost per sale, right, is 15 euros per team. So a team ticket for this year's events is 197 euros. Let's say it's 180 euros, right? If I divide 15 euro, if I subtract 15 euros, then my gross profit per registration per team is 165 euros, right? Because that's gross profit, right? Because I don't really have any other costs, right? If you have other costs, then if you have other things you have to pay, right, then it's gross revenue. Okay, so big difference, right? Gross revenue and gross profit. Gross revenue is, you have to pay some other stuff. I don't know, maybe you have an office, or maybe you have, VAs helping you out. You have to pay that too. That's revenue, gross revenue. But for me, it's gross profit. I don't need this. There's no other costs. It's just that, right? So if you use cold outreach, that's a different thing. For cold outreach, it's just sending out DMs, emails, it's just literally cold outreach. So you just sit down and you send DMs, emails. Best of it, it's free, right? But it's a lot of work. I've been sending around 500 DMs the last month, and I got around 3 sales, and it took me a full month. I also have some interesting partnerships that came out of it, and the problem is that is not all DMs and not all emails are going to reach their destination. So that's a thing, and it also costs a lot of time and effort, but it definitely works. And of course, the cool thing is that if people actually get the email or the DM and they react, you can actually start a conversation with one of them. Maybe they don't buy, but still, if you're respectful and they're respectful, I have some really cool interactions with people. Although they're not buying, they're not registering teams or stuff like that, it's still a cool experience. So yeah, that's basically what I just wanted to talk about a little bit. So, selling as an entrepreneur in the digital world, two methods that I use primarily, paid advertising and cold outreach. So if you're interested to know more about this, let me know in the comments below. And I hope to see you again next time. Thank you for joining me on this drive and talk. And I've reached my destination, as you can see. So Just going to get out, get on with my day.